Nikki Haley, the former presidential candidate, former governor of South Carolina, and former U.S. ambassador, appeared on Fox News. And in case you missed this, it's unfortunate, but Nikki Haley has endorsed Trump for president. A shameful, shameful thing for her to do, especially given what she said in the past about Trump, understanding him to be unfit, but now advocating on his behalf. But interestingly, in this appearance on Fox News, she is experiencing the same panic. You'll tell she's sort of frantically trying to deliver to Trump the message that so many Republicans now have gone on Fox News thinking that's the way to reach Trump through his TV, to say, stop whining, her words, not mine. Stop insulting Harris in a petty way as she's delivering brutal messages your way that aren't petty. Stop questioning her race. Stop obsessing over crowd sizes and get on an effective message. Now, for my purposes, I'm great. I'm happy that he's on a very undisciplined message. It's hurting his campaign severely. But you can imagine for someone such as Nikki Haley, who apparently wants him to win, this is frightening. So she has to deliver this message to Trump.
He has said this. Now, what Donald Trump needs to do is go out there and campaign every single day, telling the American people exactly what Kamala Harris has said. We are 80 plus days out. We need him to win. But you got to go out and do the work. And the one thing Republicans have...
How dare she say that? We need him to win? That's not what you were saying just a few months ago.
To stop doing... Quit whining about her. We knew it was going to be her. She's not going to give an interview. They're going to hold out as long as they can. That's their right. They can do it. That doesn't mean we can't talk about what she believes in, and we should be getting out there and doing that. And more than anything, this is not an election for just the MAGA vote. Trust me, Donald Trump has that. Republicans need to be fighting for suburban women, for college-educated, for independents, for moderate Republicans, and conservative Democrats. They want to be asked for that. The Republican Party needs to go out for them. Talk to them. Talk to them.
Before going further, and then I'll show you some reporting about Trump losing the one population of people that is supposed to be his base, right? The demographic that's supposed to be his base, which is crazy. But first, look at this lower third chyron. Haley urges Trump. This is going to be successful. Maybe not. Urges Trump to stop rant and focus on hope. Because you know, Donald, we're a failing nation, a third world country. They're coming from jails. They're murdering your daughters. They're going to kidnap your sons and turn them into drag queens. Such a hopeful guy, right? Focus on hope. I honestly would be sort of off-put if I heard Trump with a hopeful message. I would wonder where they took Trump and who this guy is.
Americans, the average American homeowner is now 49 years old.
And do you think that's not happening now? Do you think that this campaign is floundering on that point?
I want this campaign to win. But the campaign is not going to win talking about crowd sizes. It's not going to win talking about what race Kamala Harris is. It's not going to win talking about whether she's dumb. It's not. You can't win on those things. The American people are smart. Treat them like they're smart.
Do you think the campaign is missing the mark on those things?
I think the campaign needs to focus. That's the main thing. Look, this is a winnable election, but you need to focus. Who is your target market? Your target market is suburban women, college-educated, independents, and conservative Democrats. That's your target market. The target issues are the economy, the fact that Kamala wants to raise taxes, the fact that she's
not on anyone making less than $400,000 per year.
Taken money from those that didn't go to college and has given it to those that did. The fact that when Afghanistan fell, the fact that when they lifted sanctions on Iran, the fact that when they, actually said that they would help Israel and then pulled back. Where was Kamala when that happened? She was sitting right next to Joe Biden in the Situation Room. This administration is Kamala Harris's administration. Everything that has...
That's what I've been trying to say. Exactly. Her participation in the administration thus provides her a super strong record to run on. But again, we shouldn't get into that whole discussion as we already did today. But isn't this interesting? And again, we have more, but Nikki Haley, we looked at Kevin McCarthy, Peter Navarro, all of them are begging Trump, please stop with a campaign that couldn't possibly be victorious. It's collapsing, it's imploding, use whatever word you like to. It's not something that can go up against an energized, disciplined, passionate, motivated, now I'm just having fun thinking of words, movement, right? And we talked about now a bunch of times, but also with that Lincoln Project ad sort of mocking Trump over him building this whole infrastructure of lies around Biden. And then some kernels of truth, right? Biden actually was pretty old. And so the old attacks, he's not fit enough to be president. He had built this whole perception around Biden that was his whole campaign. And now the chief criticism of Biden no longer applies to Harris, but it sort of applies to Trump, doesn't it? And that's why it's so notable at the press conference that we reviewed today. Trump seeming so low energy, so bummed out. Daily Mail reporting says that he's melting down and lashing out at his aides in private. And he doesn't want to go do a bunch of campaigns everywhere because he's sort of less motivated because of the way it feels like things are slipping away, which is the opposite. When things start to look bad, you're supposed to work harder. But he just bunkers up at Mar-a-Lago, as the article stated, and is sad and is pitting himself. The majority of people who regularly watch this show aren't subscribed to it. That's kind of crazy, right? If that applies to you, do me a favor and click that subscribe button. Easy, free, but makes all the difference. I appreciate it. Back to the video. Let's see if this is a fresh clip here, and then we'll look at that reporting.
Is hers. So define her on that way. Talk about those issues. Talk about how dangerous it is to expand the Iran deal and get back in it. Talk about how dangerous it would be to do an arms embargo on Israel. Talk about how dangerous it was that Afghanistan fell. And talk about how dangerous it is that you have a presidential candidate and a vice presidential candidate that have never dealt with foreign policy, and their way of dealing with it is we shouldn't treat Russia and China as adversaries. That's what they said.
You were very prescient, as you talked about.
Oh, Nikki, don't do it. Don't do it, Nikki. Don't bring up how we have to treat China and Russia's adversaries. What do you mean? Biden has defined in part his presidency by his support of Ukraine in opposition to Russia because Russia's an adversary invading one of our allies. But wait, there is, sorry, I just smacked my mic. There is someone in this campaign, isn't there? There's someone between Harris and Trump who really, really likes the leaders of the two countries you just mentioned. Who's the one who's constantly talking about how brilliant and smart and great gentlemen who rule with an iron fist and their generals stand at attention and it's so hot the way they do it? Okay, maybe he didn't use that word, but it was the vibe. Who says that? Is it Harris? I don't think it is. I think it's Trump who says that. And one of the things that's so upsetting is that's what Nikki Haley was saying. When she was campaigning, she was defining Trump as unfit in part because of his obsession with his authoritarian crushes on these sorts of leaders. That's one of her criticisms of him. How could you be a U.S. president when you think more highly of anti-democratic authoritarian leaders than leaders that share our values? That was her criticism. So I don't need to argue with you, Nikki. You can just argue with yourself of a few months ago. Now, by the way, the reporting I was referring to here is crazy. Among non-college educated white voters in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, key battleground states, Trump is losing support. Harris is gaining support. What? That's incredible.
Donald Trump still leads. But look at that margin. It has shrunk significantly. It was 25 points back in May. It is now 14 points now here in August, nearly been sliced by half. Those numbers that Harris is putting up amongst that group right now are actually slightly better than Joe Biden did 4 years ago amongst those voters in those key states. Those are the types of numbers that Kamala Harris needs to put up in order to win. And of course, Joe Biden was like, I don't want to drop out of the race because I'm not sure that Kamala Harris can break in with this group, but it turns out she absolutely can.
Which is fascinating because originally when they started, right, it was an immediate map expansion. They started looking at Georgia, North Carolina even, not giving up, but it seemed like sort of accepting that conventional wisdom. Correct. And now it's fascinating that may not be the case. So also the economy. When we look at that, we just were talking about that. That's an issue Trump has been extremely strong on. Is that changing?
It is. I mean, again, look, we're still looking at Trump having a clear advantage amongst white working class voters in, the Great Lake battleground states. But again, the margin is shrinking, and elections are all about margins. You see it shrinking. He had a 36-point advantage in May. It's now down to 24 points here in August. These are the types of numbers that Kamala Harris needs to put up. And more than that, it's about the economy. This is also a change election, and it's also about change as well. And she's breaking through among white working class voters on the issue of change. So the economy and change working for her cohesively.
You're talking about Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. There, obviously, those are crucial. That's that blue wall. But when you look more broadly, does this tip the scale as you look at other crucial must-win states?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Non-college whites are a key group across the board. They are a plurality of voters in the electorate when you compare them with college-educated whites or if you compare them with African Americans and Hispanics, and especially in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. Look at that. They're the majority of voters. The fact that Harris is closing in on Trump with them is the big reason why she has those advantages she has now in those New York Times Siena College
Absolutely
polls.
Fascinating.
There.
And not.
So while Nikki Haley is making what is strategically an apt point, as upsetting as her situation is right now, which is Trump's going to have to make inroads needs to deliver a message that can relate to and be compelling to some of the groups that Harris is doing very well with. She cited independents, conservative Democrats, college-educated folks. But what is a crisis for Trump is that would be one task, right? You have this group of people over here that aren't super fond of Trump, but maybe if he had a less dystopian, bizarre message he could reach. But now, a group that's supposed to be much safer for him, a group that he outperforms consistently the Democratic candidate on, he's losing support with non-college educated white voters in these battleground states. Look at this, 25-point lead on Biden. 25-point lead. Whew. And then that shrunk all the way just in the short period of time since Biden dropped off the ticket to 14 points. And Harris doesn't even have to lead among this group to win. She has to close the gap a little bit. And that's what we're seeing. And that's a crisis for Trump. Even the groups that are supposed to be secured for him are abandoning. And I think a lot of people doubted. This was, as was mentioned by Aaron Burnett there, a lot of people doubted that Harris, for whatever reasons, identity reasons, I guess people were assuming, wouldn't be able to motivate more support than Biden among that group. That was one of the cases for him staying, is he could do better. But now she's doing better. That's really exciting. And I think it is non-college educated, college educated, white, black people want. In this moment, we're tired of the dark dystopian messaging. And if an effective and credible hope, change message can be delivered to us, we're on board. I think that's what's happening here for a lot of people, and that's exciting. Let me know what you thought of all that in the comments. If you want to donate to Harris's campaign, you can do so by clicking the link in the description of this video. We're trying to raise $1 million by the time we get to 1 million subscribers. And if you want to support the work we do, you can do so by clicking the join button below.